Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Prime Life podcast. I'm Mary Crean. Today, I have an amazing guest. He's really outside of the box, but he's going to tell you more about that. His name is J. Richard Byrd. He's also known as the Professor, is an architect of legacy and strategic visionary dedicated to building businesses that foster trust, integrity, and purpose. With over 35 years of experience, J. Richard leads the Byrdology Group and Urban Agency, guiding entrepreneurs in the art of sustainable growth and legacy building in digital markets. J. Richard Byrd also serves as the COO and Senior Vice President of Business Development of the Walker Group of companies and entertainment legal powerhouse. JR, as I'm going to call you today, welcome to the Prime Life podcast. That's quite an introduction, but I would like you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what Byrdology is and does.
Mary, thank you so very much for having me on. I was sitting there amazed at that introduction. I may have to have you travel with me. And I was like, who's that guy? Who's that guy over there that she's talking about? My life has been one of complete blessings. Let's just start there. I have always, I believe, always wanted to be in the entrepreneurship game. My father, who lives with me now, was a entrepreneur. He actually was a shoemaker. They called him the shoemaker. And one of the things that he used to do growing up is he would sell hosiery and shoes and stuff out of the back of his car, the trunk of his car. And I remember as a young kid, he would drive up to the church on a Sunday morning, and all the ladies in the church would wait for Sunday mornings to pick out what new pantyhose and stockings they were going to have that week. And especially if someone had a run in their stockings or something like that, they knew that the shoemaker was going to be there on Sunday morning bright and early, and they could get in there and get some stuff. So I have always tried to be in that particular vein. From selling illegal candy in school. I was the guy who would stop at the candy store on the way to school and sell the penny candy for 5 cents till, where I am today. I started my first business in 7th grade going into 8th grade. It was called Car Productions. It was Carlos, Andy, and Rich. And what happened in that is we had just moved into a new school there in Connecticut, and no one knew how to work the light system inside of the auditorium. So being the brat or troublemaker, if that's what you want to call me, my friends and I used to sneak into the auditorium, and we learned how to work the sound system, and we learned how to work the light system. And so what happened, believe it or not, is the school would hire us for anyone that was coming in to use that facility, to use our services, because no one knew even how to turn lights on. And so that was my first company. And now 35, 40 years later, I am still working. I am still doing business in entertainment, in marketplace, and in ministry.
That's amazing. And I want to take my hat off, if you will, to your father, because he inspired you. He inspired you at a very early age to be courageous and to be trying different things and moving forward. And one of the reasons I invited you to come on Prime Life Podcast, JR, as you know, is because you just keep moving forward and you keep transforming yourself in a way that has, even since I've known you, has been quite amazing and inspiring. With that said, I know you and I, before we started recording, talked a lot about the why. And I would love for you to talk to our audience and really let them know how important the why is when we are transforming ourselves, or we're stepping out into a new business, or we're just lifting our current business up.
So generally when people come into my office, they are CEOs who are transitioning out of CEO and they want to build a bigger platform. They are entertainment artists who are just about to sign a record deal or something of that nature. So I usually find people in the middle of transition, and whether that is a bishop, a pastor, a leader, it's always in that place of I used to be, but now I'm going to be, and how do I cross that bridge? It usually starts with me. The first question I ask is, what is your why? Not why are you doing this, but what exactly is your why? Because if we can pinpoint what is motivating you to do what you do, I used to call it, as a young kid, I didn't have anything else. I used to call it the motivating factor. And just to step in my minister hat for a minute, there is a scripture that talks about if you give, but you don't give in the right heart, it doesn't mean anything. And so I used to think, oh, wow. So there isn't about what you do. It is the why that you do it that really makes the biggest difference. And so I always ask, what is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? What is causing you to be emotionally charged? What is causing you to make these changes? And if we can identify the why, whether that is on my side or even on the opposing side in a negotiation, then I can identify and get to the WIN. What is your win? What does win look like? What is it going to feel like? When are you going to look at this and say, oh, I won? And if I can do those two things, Mary, in any negotiation, in any client, and even any business, then I know I can make it happen. So identify first, what is that motivating factor? What is that part in your gut that's making you do what you do? Like, you got up this morning motivated for some win. There was something that made you get out of that bed. Now, this morning, because I worked till like 3:00 this morning, the win was I had to be on this podcast. That was my win. And my why is because I gave my word, and that was important to me. That is a motivating factor for me to always do what I say I'm going to do. And so again, that is your why. I tell, if I delete something with your audience just in this small part, this nugget, first sit and spend some time with yourself. Go through an exercise, we call it the 7 whys. And basically start with your first why. Why am I in business? And then just start going. Well, if you're in business to make money, well, why do you want to make money? Oh, because I want to go on vacation. Well, why do you want to go on vacation? Because I'm tired. Oh, well, why are you tired? And so somewhere down in those about 5 or 6, you start really getting to the heart of who you are and what is really motivating you to do what you want to do. My main why in the beginning of my career was because I don't like being told what to do. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be a multimillionaire. I wanted to be a billionaire. I love just the mechanics and the logistics and the system building. I love the intricacies of that kind of stuff. So I always wanted to do that. I remember in high school walking around, I don't think I owned a pair of jeans until I was out of school. I walked around in dress pants with a briefcase, long trench coat. I thought I was a teacher. I thought I was the professor back then. I thought I was a businessman. And, they may not ever tell this story, but I used to sell costumes and uniforms to the school at a 10% discount because I knew how to do wholesale even in high school. So that's your why is what motivates you to do what you do. and dig deep.
Yeah, I love that. But I'm a former entrepreneur and I haven't done as many things as you have done. And I am not an entrepreneur currently. But I know as an entrepreneur, you can be anxious about that short term goal or those short term wins. But I think what I've heard from you is that one must look at the legacy building, especially in a fast paced society. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that. Why is that important and what does that really mean?
So some of my background, the business development part of being inside of entertainment law. I'm not an attorney. My business partner is an attorney, but I work very closely with him, and we've built that law firm up. I tell folks, like, here's how you really explain it. Someone like a Cam Newton, who used to be the quarterback here in Charlotte, where I live, he gets a $55 million, $65 million contract. He would then come to me, and my job would be to figure out, do we buy 55 McDonald's, 25 Burger King, 6 hotels? How do we build the contracts for that? How do we write the business structure for that? So I'm always involved inside of the structure of building. Legacy came to me one day because I was walking in uptown Charlotte, and I'm watching them build this new skyscraper. Because I tell you one thing about Charlotte is they don't believe in holding on to things. They will put a sign up that said, "Here used to be," and they will tear it down and build something new. And so I'm walking through the city. They're building a new skyscraper, and I'm watching them build deep. And so I asked the construction, the guy, like, why are you building? Like, you guys have been actually working in this foundation for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And what he said to me is, the higher we go up, the further we have to go down. And what I started doing then, Mary, is thinking about how I build and structure business. And I used to build them what we called horizontally. I'd build these really small, quick businesses that I could just put up really quick, 2 days, 3 days, 6 days, whatever. But what would happen in building horizontally in my business structure, they were easy to throw away. They were very easy, and when trouble came, they would blow over. And what I did then is started to build real deep, build real good foundations, so that when times like we have right now, times are flowing, money is scarce in some parts of the world. I have a structure that's built on a firm foundation. And what that really means to me when I speak to clients and customers is, are you building for now, or are you building for later? Now, there are times when you're building a really quick hit company, or you're building a really quick hit relationship, something that from the moment you start, that this is going to be short term, 5-10 years. I'm going to exit out of this. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to do whatever. But even in that, the planning of turning that over has to be tied to something that lives much further than you. Even when I have an exit plan for a business, the exit plan is part of a longer legacy that I plan to live. Listen, it is okay to have your name on your house, but I'm trying to have my name on a skyscraper. I want you to walk by the Byrd building, the Byrd campus. That's how I think.
I love that.
But as an African American male with 5 boys, my legacy is seeing not just my name, but my knowledge passed forward. I talked earlier about my father. I did not live with my father. I now live with my father, but we're 50 years in, we're just learning each other. And so I'm spending more time learning the intricacies of my family history and who he is and how that has rubbed off on me, even though we weren't around each other. I want to make sure that whatever little bit I have, I die empty. That is legacy. That's my why. And if you are looking at what you're planning to do, even after 50, you have to start living in legacy mode and saying, what are the seeds that I'm leaving that will eventually grow? I like bourbon. I love bourbon. And part of the bourbon history is when you drink bourbon, you're drinking the history of how long that bourbon sat in the warehouse. What trees, how long did the trees grow? The water, the corn, all of those different pieces are a part of that. But what I learned in that history of making bourbon is that a really good um, blender, the person who puts the bourbon together, they literally only have three. The first one they're learning, the second one they perfect it, and the third one is for whoever's coming behind them because they probably will never taste it there. Legacy for me is I'm blending right now my third batch of the really good stuff, and I know that it won't be for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. And I think that's a perfect message for our audience because many of us are in that phase, or we should be thinking like that. So I love how you weaved in your story, but also in a way that others can really start to really think about what you've said and hopefully apply to their life. But I'm really excited now to talk a little bit about Birdology blog, first workflow, and how small business owners can use this approach to maximize content impact across platforms. Because really, we all know doesn't matter what industry we're in, content creation is key, but we also have to be strategic about that. So let's hear a little bit about how you approach that.
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
Nassau is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years, but we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Woo! Okay, so I got to change hats now and become a digital marketer. Years ago, I came across a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk. A lot of people know who he is, Gary V.
I love
Gary
him.
V created kind of what he called his content pyramid, which was create a pillar piece of content, something major, and then break it down into bite-sized pieces based on the format that you want to push that to. So if you're a speaker, go take your speech, get it broken down. If you're a writer, write first. And so we've adopted that in our systems and in our workflows over the last few years. What I started to do maybe 5 to 6 months ago is I became very active on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is really a write first type of thing. So my approach right now is I create the written portion first. Now, here's the best part. For those who have been scared of AI, this is where AI is your friend. Now, we do content for a ton of people, Grammy Award-winning artists, people of that nature who will never, ever give us content. We literally have to snatch it when they're running across stage or if they say something. Where AI is right now, they've become the assistant that I didn't know I needed. And so my approach is this. I get up in the morning, I dictate a blog post. We work that blog post for 15, 20 minutes. We get it right. I get all the different pieces of the puzzle of what I like. This is it. This is me. This is my voice. I feel it. Okay, good. Rah, 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 rah. Because I know that my blog or my website is the one piece of internet real estate that I particularly own. I want to make sure that all of my Google search goes there. I get all the points and the power for that. That is the deep dive. That's going to be 900 words, 1,000 words. That's a deep one. We then take that blog post, Mary, we stick it in AI, and then I say, okay, out of this 1,000 words, give me the 500-word, sixth grade professional version of this. That becomes my LinkedIn post. I then say, okay, now take this blog post, give me the Facebook version of this. Now I have my Facebook. Then I go, okay, give me a script for TikTok. It gives me a script for short form video. I pull up my phone, which is right here next to me, and I read the script and I record that. And literally we take one blog post that I write every morning and we create 20 to 30 or 40 pieces. And we do that in less than an hour. What it allows you to do is create continuity across your brand, continuity across your voice. But what is different now than how we did it when we were doing a lot of the Gary Vee stuff is back then we created it based on the visual format. Is it 9 by 16? Is it 300 pixels by 500 pixels? Now I'm creating it based on the audience of the platform. My TikTok audience is 92% what they call for you. These are usually people who don't know me. And so I need to introduce myself in some form or fashion of what I do in each one of my videos. My Instagram format for most people is the opposite. It's 75% people who are friends are following me and then giving to new. So I can talk to those people in a language that's theirs, again, without having to really redo everything that I'm doing. So the Birdology blog first workflow, if you will, is writing that huge, and I always have to give credit to Gary Vee, writing that huge piece. That's my heart. That's me. And then repurposing that based on the language of the audience that I'm feeding it.
I mean, this was a great marketing lesson. I know I'm taking notes. I follow you on Facebook, and I know you didn't mention Facebook, but I really think that that's brilliant. Because look, time is money, and, you could think, oh, well, where are you going to find the time to do all this? But it's so important. And I like how you chunked that out. Well, let's take a little bit of a different turn and hear about, actually, this is a great segue because it's about balancing personal growth and business expansion, right? Because when you scale a business up, you know best than many that requires a lot of time, energy, compassion, heartbreak, energy, all of those things. So how do you balance personal growth with scaling up businesses?
So to really understand, scaling and growing are two different things. When you grow a company, your revenues and expenses usually grow together. So if I spend $25 to make a card for 100 pieces, when I make 200 pieces, I'm still going to spend that same amount of money and my expenses move with it. So you can grow any company very fast by putting in a lot more money to that. When you scale a company, you're actually decreasing expenses and increasing revenue at the same time. So because now that I do for 200 people, I can renegotiate the contract for what it cost me. My cost per piece is now $12 versus $25. I've decreased my expenses and increased my revenue. So I always put that out there because people use them interchangeably, and there really are two different mindsets. One is manager. Let me make more money, make more money, make more money. The other one is CEO mindset, which is how do I grow my bottom line? Now that that's out the way, when you are trying to scale a company, what I used to do, and again, I'm always trying to evolve. What I used to do is I would walk into a company, I would spend the first 6 months to a year, I would actually build the company myself. It was me in it, making the orders. It's me all over the place. It's me just almost micromanaging. And then I would hire my support staff. and then eventually hire what we call an operator, someone who can run that company. So my t-shirt company, any of the other companies that we own in our portfolio, when they started 5 or 6 years ago, that literally was me finding a pain, a pressure, solving that pain or pressure, figuring it out, building it all out, and then saying, here, take this and run from it. What I do now to give myself more personal time is I look for an operator first. I'm now looking for who do I think can actually run this company? And then I'm giving them the orders, if you will. This is my vision for what I want to have happen in this. I'm going to give you the ability to hire whoever you think can make that happen, as long as you meet my metrics. I follow Michael Hyatt, who used to be CEO of Thomas Nelson, and he's now, they call himself the virtual mentor. Great blog, great stuff for you to go look at. And he was talking about a system, he called it 80-20. And basically 80-20 is, as a CEO, you should spend 20% of your time giving out vision and okaying, and then letting your team do 80% of the work. Now, again, bad me, coming out of the COO mindset and shifting to CEO. COO for me means I need to touch it. CEO means I just need to see it. Those battle within me on a daily basis, I tell you. Right now, I had to give up, and I'm really talking to someone. That's my church side. I'm talking. I don't know who I'm talking to, but someone's hearing me now. I had to learn not only how to fire myself, but I had to give up some pieces of perfection, or what I consider to be perfection. My friend, Shannon, who is a CEO, she's a client as well. She says you need to learn how to manage the outcome, not the process. And that is really how I balance. I had to learn how to say, I want a website, I want it to be blue. I don't care what the blue is. I just need it to be blue. And not obsessed, because creatively I want to obsess that shade of blue is not the exact blue I saw in the back of my mind. All that stuff. I'm in the code now. Like, I want the hexadecimal points to be something. I had to give that up and be like, did you hand me what I asked for? Is it within the parameters of the guidelines? There is a book, I can't remember the author, so I'll send it to you, but it's called Herding Tigers. And in this book, he talks about what it takes to lead creatives. That's his main thing. They're not cats. You're not herding cats. You're actually herding tigers. And one of the things he said in his blog post, in his podcast, and in the book, is for creatives, you have to give them a boundary and a fence, and then let them wreck it. And what I learned is sometimes I was walking into businesses and I wasn't giving clear boundaries. I was saying, create as you go. Now I give boundaries, and then I tell them, now I expect you to wreck this thing. Now become the tiger that you really are. And by doing that, Mary, by literally getting rid of the responsibility of the process, is how I'm able to move. It's not easy. It's very hard. It's very hard, especially when you're used to touching, when the actual mechanics of your business is what makes you happy. But if you're going to scale, I told a podcast one time, they asked me, do I do custom websites? And I told them I can't scale custom. I can scale customizable. I can't scale custom, because custom means that I have to be one-on-one, and I can't systemize the website building process. So that's one. Two, my systems and infrastructure for everything that we own is the same. And so when I talked about the differences between building horizontally and building vertically, now my digital agency, the Urban Agency, we don't take a lot of outside clients. That's because they mainly work for me. And that is they're the communications people. They are the website, the IT. They are the elevator that allows me to go from floor to floor in all our companies, if you will, and be there without worrying about what's happening 3,000 miles on the other side, 4,000 miles on the other side. So build yourself, or build your dreams, vertically so that you can just hop on the elevator and go from place to place. That will give you a lot of time for personal development. And I think last, let me know if I give too much stuff.
No,
Last,
keep going. Keep
last,
going.
for the personal development piece, if you are not moving and you're not evolving, let me put it to you this way. Water that does not move is a swamp, and a swamp that does not move stinks. And so if you're not moving in some form, some fashion, not evolving, not trying new and different things, not innovating inside of your company, innovating inside of your mind, innovating inside of your relationship, you will become a swamp and eventually you will start to stink. And so I live by that. I told I remember having this conversation 12 years ago or so when I moved to Charlotte after I said, forget Connecticut. That's it. This is my new why. I'm tired of working 60, 70 hours a week. I got to go. We just pick up everything. And I remember, so I said, let me start the Byrdology group. This will be, I'm semi-retired, if you will. I'm just going to do this group and figure out some new stuff. I remember I hired this 19-year-old young lady who eventually became, my daughter to mentor her. And I asked her the first day, we're sitting in the office, she's sitting across from my desk, and I say, okay, I need you to write this memo or fax or something. And she pulled out her phone. And I'm looking at her and I'm saying, why in the world are you pulling out your phone? Like, no, I gave you an instruction. I expect you to go to your desk. I expect you to pull out this new laptop I just paid for and type. But she literally started typing on her phone. And the light bulb for me was, if this 19-year-old doesn't look at the computer as being her prime means of communication, if I don't make some shifts in how I operate, I'm going to lose out. So since then, I always have someone who is under 25 or under 30 around me. Yeah. Because I need to always see, what's the new language that you're talking? What are the new shows you're watching? How do you even consume what it is that I'm putting out in the world? My coach, I have a TikTok coach. My TikTok coach is 27 years old. I've been in business longer than she's been alive. But there are things about that platform that I need to hear from her because she's living in a world that I only visit.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is really helpful because it's really, and doesn't matter if it's your workplace or a workplace, this intergenerational relationships that we all have to navigate. But I find exactly what you find with younger people. They inspire me. I learn from them. I just watched 2 documentaries, one on Netflix and one on Hulu, about 2 very different women. And both of them had reinvented themselves a few times, and they largely did it with the younger generation. So I won't go into too much. They happen to be Diane von Furstenberg and Martha Stewart. But it was a very interesting story. And it was really a lot of what you just said. So I loved hearing that. It's, definitely resonates with me. And I'm sure it definitely resonates with our audience. Before we go to the tips that I want you to share that, individuals can take action on, before we get there, can you give our audience a couple of quick steps how they can turn ideas into action? Because there are people that have lots of ideas, and that's great. But how do you take that next step to turn 1 or 2 of those ideas into action?
I think the first thing, again, goes back to why. I map out what is the why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? The second thing I do is what is the win? What is the WIN? How do I know that I've achieved it? I then do an exercise that starts this way. If money, people, is not an option or not an obstacle, what would this product, what would my life look like? I first start with there is no objections. I don't have any complainers. All I have is go. All I have is the pedal to the floor. What does it look like? And then we start there. If I had $50 million, I would buy 5 houses and I'd buy an airport. So we start there. And I start with the assumption that that is absolutely positively doable. Then I start stepping backwards. So if I bought an airport, I would need to ask myself some questions. Is the airport already built? Are there people there? Do I have airplanes? Oh, I don't have any airplanes. Well, I need to buy some airplanes. Well, how much would the airplanes cost? And I just start costing out and going through the steps that it takes. And I think for someone, and I'm going to be totally honest, I am a procrastinator and I'm a perfectionist. I call it perfectionation. And I suffer from both of those. And sometimes I can suffer from overanalyzing. So, but once I do that, that step, I then get to the whiteboard and I draw out. I just write. I just throw, and I sit back and I'll sit and watch that. And I feel like it's sometimes there's a movie like with Tom Cruise, and all the little pieces jump up on the screen and stuff, and he's like moving it around with his hand. And I have that moment where I'm just moving. No, that doesn't work. That moves. Okay, let's do it. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay. That. And once I get past that step, then it is action. It is all about execution. It is all about speed. And my goal over the next 6 months is really that. How can I close the gap between idea and execution? And I say that's new because that was a video I watched yesterday where they talked about that, and I was like, okay, let me go and let me go hit the go button on some stuff that I just even have sitting on there. And I also want to say this for some people. When you're looking at your idea, you have to make a true determination. And again, this is a lot of soul searching. Is that an idea for now? Or is that really an idea for later? I found that usually, and it sounds weird to people, but I'm 6 years to 10 years ahead. I really live in the future. I had someone tell my wife, have you ever looked at him and he seems like he's floating somewhere and he's not paying attention to anything? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, he's not ignoring you. He literally is not in our world right now. Like, he's living the future. And so what was happening for me in that little story, and I'll jump back real quick, is I was frustrated because there's things that I would build that nobody would buy. And then 5 or 6 years later, they would come back and it's the now thing. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. I already thought about that. I already did that. I built that. Y'all didn't want it. Fine. I'm back. Yeah. So I had to learn what is for now, what is for later. Some things you're supposed to build. Some things you're supposed to write the blueprint and someone else is supposed to build. Some things you're just supposed to have the idea and hand to someone. I wrote a book a couple of weeks ago because there were some things in the church world that were irritating me. And that's a world that I do a lot of business in. And I had to have that conversation with myself. Is this even for me? Or now that I'm the elder, now that I'm an elder statesman, is it for me to write the manifesto and allow someone else to do it? And that literally is what I did. I took the book and I sent it to someone that I mentor and I said, here you go. Because again, my win now is not getting credit. My win is making sure the knowledge and the legacy is passed through. So yeah, moving from idea to execution revolves around you knowing what the end is going to look like, and then moving as fast as possible to get all the pieces of the puzzle together. And if you are married to the win and not the journey, then you'll see a lot more avenues to get there, and it'll make life easier for you.
Yeah, I love that. And it's also about being generous in spirit. And, again, I'm linking this back to the legacy piece that you started with. There's the connection right there. And I love that you're building individuals around you that are related to you and not related to you, because you're trying to make a difference in the world. And I just think that's amazing. So we're getting kind of near to the end, JR. So I would love for you, before I ask you the last question, which is going to be probably very easy for you because you've really talked about it a lot since we've been in this conversation. Kind of a lightning round. What are 2 or 3 tips you can leave our audience with if they're thinking about, again, transforming themselves, starting a new business, unretiring like you have done? What can you share?
Life is a journey. Who you are, who you were is not who you are, and who you are is not going to be who you will be. It is a process. And give yourself grace. So let's talk mindset first. Give yourself grace to try again. It's not that you failed, it's because you've learned different ways of doing things. So your second, third, or fourth go round is really about being able to utilize what you've learned in a way to be a better person, to be a better business, and to make things move a lot quicker. And so first, give yourself grace and understand, yeah, I used to do it this way, but I don't have to do it that way. The second part of that is grab you some people who have the strength and energy that you need. They may not even be in the same business that you're in. They may not even have the same uh, vision that you have, but they have the energy level and they have the need to learn. Grab that person, get them around you, become their mentor. They need that from you, and what you need from them is new innovation and energy. What was the second part of the question, Mary?
I think you answered it. I think you're just trying to you answered it. You answered it very well. But so let's take it home. You've talked a lot about all of the amazing things you've done in your life, really from the time you were a kid in school, right, up until now. And you touched upon some of the industries you're in, and we'll maybe have to have you back to talk a little bit deeper about that, because I'm actually amazed by the depth and breadth of the individuals and industries that you touch. That said, you can get up every day and do whatever you want. Why do you choose to do what you do? What is your why?
I think the why, I really, truly want to see people win. I really want to see people win. And it does not revolve around me winning. Does that make sense? It's kind of weird. I remember being in a dance competition. Now I'm telling too much about my youth, but I was a dancer, and did competitions and stuff like that. I was a tap dancer. Shh, don't tell anybody. And I remember being in a national competition, and there was a young lady who was my competitor, and she was rehearsing in the hotel lobby, and I had to be maybe between 10 and 12, I can't remember. But I remember walking over to her and re-choreographing her dance number. And she won. She beat me. She was first, I was second. My mother was livid. Like, why would you go and do that? And I said, but she won with my moves. I still won. And so I bring that. That really is my win, Mary. I want to see people win. I also want to see my children's children be successful. Lots of people, look at the Rockefellers or the Vanderbilts and, get this bad taste in their mouth. What I look at is that there's generational wealth that is still not just sitting in the family, but there's general wealth, that is helping. I want to look around and see that I have 5 hospitals that are named after myself, or probably more importantly, I'm dead and gone, and there are 6 new colleges or universities that are named after my children's children because of whatever I've deposited.
Yeah.
And so that win for me is, 12 years ago, it was building 10 millionaires. Now I'm literally looking at, how do I build millions of millionaires? How do I infect, and that's the right word, how do I infect the world with what I do. One of the reasons I jumped so all into AI was to make sure that when you, Mary, in Connecticut, are looking up a business idea or strategy, that my knowledge base is a part of that learning model. I'm giving everything away for free almost, but I'm doing it with the intentionality of my knowledge outliving me. So my real win, my real why is I literally want to see people win. I want to see them succeed. I want them to think bigger, be bigger so they can do bigger and better things.
Well, that's a great way to end this episode. And I have to say, if we had more individuals like you in the world, our world would definitely be a better place. So let's keep working on that. JR, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way? We will put your channels in our show notes.
The best way is for your crew is probably LinkedIn. Hit me on LinkedIn, J. Richard Byrd. I'm in the middle of changing some of my handles, so it will be J. Richard Byrd on across most things, X, Facebook. And if you don't find me that way, just look up Byrdology, Byrdology. What I tell people, you're not going to find that in a book or school, but that's just my system of how I do things over these last 35 years. That's my science. It's Byrdology approved.
Awesome. JR, thank you for joining me today on another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. So thank you again. And to our audience, follow us, like us, give us feedback so we can do a better job. Have a great day, everyone, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life Podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.